Two men leave the same bank on a Thursday afternoon. The first has just signed a 60-month financing agreement to buy a new car. The second one just set up an automatic monthly transfer to an investment fund. They both have almost the same income. They both live in the same neighborhood. They both think, of heart, they are making a smart decision with their own money. But in 10 years, they will be in completely different places. And the difference will not have been due to luck, inheritance, or chance. The question that almost no one asks out loud is this: why do most people works for decades and approaches 50 years old with no assets whatsoever? No, we're talking about unemployed people. We're talking about professionals with income, stable, able to pay bills, sometimes travel, and reach middle age with nothing. Accumulated truth. The answer is not a lack of income. It's a lack of understanding about how money works. It grows, and what you need to do at each stage of that process. There is a path with 3 distinct phases to building true wealth. No, it's academic theory. It's not internet guru. It's the pattern that repeats itself in the trajectories of those who actually accumulate wealth in Brazil, starting from the bottom. No inheritance and no shortcuts. If you understand where you are now and what this phase means, if it demands something specific from you, the game changes completely. Phase 1, the intelligent survival phase. Before discussing investing, there's an uncomfortable truth to face. Most people never leave this phase because they don't complete it properly. And completing it means having more money. It means profoundly reorganizing the relationship, which you maintain with what already comes into your account every month. Surveys on financial behavior in Brazil show that more than half a significant portion of the adult population spends everything they earn, or a little more, not out of carelessness. It's the predictable result of growing up in an environment where nobody teaches, in a way. In practice, the difference between consuming and building. Phase 1 has a single mission, and it's less glamorous than it seems: to stop leak. Think of your income as a bucket. It doesn't matter how much you put in if the bottom is leaking. The most common leaks aren't the big, obvious expenses. They're forgotten subscriptions that renew themselves, installments that were unbeknownst to them, credit card interest is piled up, turning into a fixed line in budget without you being fully aware of it. Behavioral research. Consumer studies show that most people underestimate their own spending. Monthly, around 30%. 30%. That's not personal negligence. It's like the human brain functions when there is no system forcing attention and registration. The rule that saves almost everyone at this stage is simple and, at the same time, strongly resisted by the majority. Rule 1. Pay yourself first, always without exception. It's not a motivational metaphor. It's financial mechanics. Every time income falls, your account, the first transfer is for you, not what's left at the end of the month. After everything is paid, the first move on the same day before any other, spending decision. Research in behavioral economics shows that with money available in the checking account, the likelihood of it being spent increases dramatically within the first 72 hours. The money that goes out automatically before you see it, this one has a real chance of existing in the month, next year and the following year and in 10 years. Start with any amount, 5%, 10%. The number matters. Infinitely less than a habit becoming an automatic routine and non-negotiable in your life. Rule 2. Build your savings before thinking about profitability. This is the most expensive mistake in phase 1, trying to win on the stock market or investing in crypto before having an emergency fund. The logic seems to make sense. Idle money loses value to inflation. But think about what happens when it becomes available. A real unforeseen event. You are forced to sell at the worst possible time, withdrawing at a loss, or resort to expensive credit to cover the hole. All 3 paths destroy they make progress and throw you right back to the beginning. An emergency fund is not an investment. It's a safety net. It needs to be readily available for liquidity, without market risk, covering 3 to 6 months of your essential costs. Only after that, with that cushion built up and untouched, you change phases with real stability underneath. Phase 2, the construction phase. This is where most conversations about money begin. And precisely for that reason, so many people fail. They reach this stage without having completed the previous one, without a reserve has been formed with expensive active debts and unstable cash flow. It's like trying to build a wall without a foundation. It seems to be working until the day that it doesn't work anymore. But let's imagine you did your homework for phase 1. Reserve built, expenses tracked and controlled, installments paid off. You now have some money left over. Real, predictable, every month. What do you do with it? This is where it's worthwhile to follow 2 characters side by side. Rafael and Camila are 29 years old. They both work in similar fields and have reached Phase 2, with approximately the same monthly surplus available for investment. Rafael begins studying the market with enthusiasm. Every month, he looks for an opportunity. That's right. 1 month, everything is put into action, as a friend confidently suggested. In that month next, the stock price fell and he withdrew it at a loss, reinvesting it in a real estate fund. That you saw recommended in a video. Then try fixed income, then crypto. Then he's back to working on a different strategy. Rafael is always on the move, always adjusting, always believing that the next decision will compensate for the previous one. 2 years later, his net worth is almost zero, between fees and bad trades, and a forced rescue to cover an unforeseen event that the reserve did not cover because he never finished building it. Camila does things differently. She spends 2 weeks studying, defines an allocation, simply put, part in quality fixed income, part in an equity fund, diversified at low cost. And then it does something that seems obvious, but that very few people do. People can afford to stop looking every day. Automatic contribution on beginning of each month, review every 6 months, and no emotional decisions in interval, regardless of what the market does or what friends are thinking. Doing so. 2 years later, Camila's net worth had grown steadily, not spectacularly, consistently. The difference between Rafael and Camila wasn't intelligence. It wasn't luck. It was absence of a specific and devastating psychological trap. Rule 3. The greatest enemy of construction is excessive activity. The human brain has been trained, over millennia, to associate movement with progress. When you take action, you feel in control. When you stand still, you feel anxious. But in the financial market, that feeling is almost always an expensive illusion. Data studies on the behavior of retail investors consistently show that the more transactions a person performs, the worse the long-term outcome. Excessive activity consumes returns in fees, in income tax, and primarily in decisions made with emotion rather than sound judgment. Phase 2 demands a profoundly countercultural skill, the ability to not doing nothing when the market drops 15%, when a friend mentions an opportunity, that it won't last when anxiety sets in. This isn't passivity. It's the way. The most sophisticated discipline that exists in this game. Rule 4. Diversify by purpose, not by current trend. Every real you invest needs to have a clear purpose. Short-term liquidity, medium-term protection, long-term growth. When you mix it all together, without criteria, buying what's trending, what others are buying, which seems safer in that moment of anxiety, you end up with a wallet which doesn't serve any purpose well and will constantly require you to tinker with it. 3 questions before any investment. Does this money have a defined time frame? What is my tolerance level if it drops 20% in 6 months? I would need it. Any emergency? The answers are more organizing than any technical analysis. Phase 3, the multiplication phase. This phase has a prerequisite that almost no one honestly mentions: time. It's not possible to get here in 2 years, not in 4. The real multiplication of wealth is almost entirely dependent on compound interest acting in cycles. Long-term interest, and compound interest is brutally slow at the beginning and brutally slow accelerated at the end. There is an asymmetry in wealth growth that most people never realize. It's a hassle because it abandons the process too early. In the early years, the numbers, they seem small. You made sacrifices, maintained discipline, and the results generated that month buy a dinner. The inner voice starts. It's not worth it. Go ahead. Taking too long means better to enjoy it now. That voice is the greatest destroyer of wealth that exists. It's not the market. It's not the inflation. This thought is emerging at the exact moment when the compound interest rate curve, it was about to double. Camila is 38 years old now. She has invested consistently for almost a decade. Her net worth reached a point where the monthly income generated, they automatically became larger than the contributions she makes, actively. She crossed what some experts call the line of irreversibility, the point at which money does more work than it does itself. It didn't happen by a stroke of luck. It happened after 10 years of boredom, silent and uncomfortable consistency. Rule 5, protect what is growing with the same seriousness with which you built it. As wealth grows, the nature of the most dangerous risk changes. In the beginning, the risk is not investing. In the middle, it's investing wrong. In phase 3, the real risk is to lose what was built through excessive focus, through an emotional decision, in a moment of euphoria, or due to an unplanned life event, separation, illness, change in income. This phase requires a careful review of resource allocation. Attention to asset protection and gradual risk reduction according to the objective is achieved. It's not the time to bet on a new theory. It's time to not ruin what's already here. It took years to build. Rule 6. Define what freedom is before someone else defines it for you. There is a subtle trap that catches precisely the people who have reached phase 3. With discipline, the silent inflation of the standard of living. As wealth, as it grows, the destination that once seemed sufficient begins to appear modest. What the dream becomes the bare minimum acceptable, and the race never ends, because no one. The number is sufficient when you haven't previously defined what sufficient means. Before we get there, an honest question. What is your net worth, your passive income, the safety margin that would allow you to live with the choices you truly want? What do you want to do? Anyone who doesn't answer that clearly will leave the market, the advertising, and comparisons on social media speak for themselves, and that's never enough. He arrives. Let's go back to those two men leaving the bank on a Thursday afternoon. The person who financed the car is not the villain in this story. He made a decision that it seemed completely reasonable, within a logic that the whole society validates and encourages. The problem wasn't the car. It was that he never stopped to understand which phase he was in, and therefore, he never knew what the phase demanded of him. Whoever made the automatic transfer probably didn't even know the names of the 3 phases. But intuitively, he was doing the right thing at the right time. Wealth is not an event. It's not a financial product. It's not an isolated decision. On a lucky day, it's a process with distinct phases, each with a mission. Specifically, a typical mistake that undermines progress and a behavioral skill that separates those who move forward from those who remain stagnant for years. The question you should carry with you from now on isn't, where do I invest? It's a more honest question. Which of the 3 phases am I really in? And what this phase is demanding a lot from me now, but what do I have to offer?